One of the fun things we get to do today is go on a tree walk. And so with everything going on, you know, distance learning, et cetera, but also the fact that sometimes there aren't forests at schools, this kind of offers a way to demonstrate how you could do a virtual tree walk. And then also have some other resources at the end of this of how you could create your own. Maybe you don't know as much about trees, et cetera. That's not your forte. Some other people that really do and don't often get talked to or involved. And so let's get started. So this was actually created by Dana Sussman originally. She's a forester up in Orlando with us, and then my senior forester, Clark Riles. And so Florida Forest Service, what do? We fight wildfires. We manage about over 1 million acres of state forest lands, and we also go out to help people learn about their trees and manage them. So pretty neat organization. So today we're going to visit Picayune Strand State Forest. So, and we're going to focus on identifying a few trees native to Florida, which grow the forest, but also understand the complexity of each of the ecosystems of the forest and give you some tips as far as how to identify additional trees out and around where you are. So Picayune Strand State Forest. So for the tour today, we are headed down this Lime Rock Road, some pine trees on either side. This is actually located down in Collier County, and we'll show you a map here in a little while. So what was Picayune Strand State Forest? This was the scene of the largest land scam in the 1960s and 70s, went bankrupt in the 90s. They dug a bunch of canals, put in a bunch of roads. They'd fly people over in the winter when it was dry, and in the summer they come back and build their house. There'd be 4 feet of water there. So now it's a restoration project, but again, a good place to recreate. 74,000 acres managed using a multiple use management plan. That means everything from recreation to wildlife to forest management to water conservation, et cetera. And today we're going to emphasize mesic hammock, hydroid flatwoods, mesic flatwoods, and cypress strands. So the trail system in the forest. So the northern part of that map, that's actually I-75, the mysterious overpass as you go along I-75, that's actually our northern entrance. What we're going to focus on is on more of the left-hand side of that map, coming in off of Sable Palm Road. And we're actually, this is the kind of darker blue trail. That's the Sable Palm Trail, kind of the bottom. It's a picnic site. That's the trail that we're going to be looking at today. And some of the different community types we're going to focus on. So mesic hammock. So oaks, cabbage palms, et cetera. So on the left, you have more of a manicured, that's actually in a homeowners association, oak hammock that's been conserved. And on the right, you have the mesic hammock that's in Picayune that actually had a wildfire go through it 2 years ago. Mesic flatwoods, so we're going a little bit further down as far as we can get some seasonal flooding. So mesic flatwoods, basically a lot of pine trees and a good shrub layer. That's what defines it. And you got some plants, the purple berry, it's actually a beauty berry that's actually fruiting right now. People say the fruit tastes like cotton. So I guess if you like eating cotton. We got bracken fern on the right. It's another good plant you'd see out there. And it's a fern that grows about 1 foot off the ground. And then you have 3 little leaflets, little leaf stems that grow off of that. And then the bottom one there, that's actually rusty Lyonia. You can tell that one out there. You can impress all your friends this weekend. That has that kind of bronzing, and that's actually the little little leaf hairs that are on the underside of the leaf that help it conserve water, and actually gets a purple flower on it as well. Hydroid flatwood. So we are going further down. So now you can get seasonal flooding of 6 to 8 inches for about 2 months out of the year. And you notice in this, you start getting a lot more grasses. So we're not going to go into the grasses today. It's a webinar all on its own. And then cypress strand. So same spot, generally, the one on the right, the same spot would be further up, but so dry season on the left, hey, it looks pretty good. And this was a few days ago with about ankle deep water up to waist deep water when I walked through it. So tour stops, different tour stops. And on the right is actually the picture of a Sable Palm hiking trail, 3.2 miles with a couple loops. And we actually recently installed, if you're able to go down there, a series of signs that talk about each of the little different plant communities, and pretty neat little tour you can get down there. So we're going to stop at the pavilion now because you got to show up, you got to park somewhere. So On the left, that's the kiosk when you arrive to the hiking trail. And then on the right, it's a new pavilion we put in. You can sit there later on, have lunch, etc. But we're doing a virtual tree tour. So there's got to be something as far as that you can do. So you can do some leaf collection. Do this out in the woods, and again, we'll get to some other outside resources that you can use. You can actually have students trace and cut out leaves, and then or just basically see what are they hearing in the woods. When I was doing this, I had a red-shouldered hawk chasing me around somewhere it was trying to keep me away from. But the PLT activities this actually goes along really well with is the number 4 sounds around, number 5 poetry, and number 68 name that tree. So, and then this is the parking area at the trailhead itself on the right side. So how to identify a tree? Lots of different ways, shapes, leaves, etc. And dendrology is actually the science of tree identification. What you do is you use a list of identifying characteristics, whether it's leaf arrangement, so whether that's opposite or alternate, leaf type, so is it broad like an oak or a maple, or is it needle-like like a cypress or a pine? The bark, is it really chunky like that center bark there? Or is it really smooth, white? So a lot of different characteristics. Any flowers or fruits, so the little winged fruits there, that's actually from a red maple. These are called samaras. You got a magnolia flower, very beautiful. Just don't grow too well down here. And then on the end there, you actually have one we'll see that's a winged sumac fruit. The leaf arrangement, opposite or alternate, pretty easy. So what you can remember for opposite is mad, maple, ash, and dogwood. So the leaves start from a point on the stem at the same point, and they grow off either side. Alternate, that's sort of like a goofy, if you have a one pole ladder and then you space out your little rungs on either side, you can kind of climb up that way. That's how alternate is. So the new leaves come out from the stem in an alternating basis. And that's actually most broadleaf trees. So again, broadleaf or needle-like. So again, broadleaf, in this case, it's a sweet gum. And then on the right, you've got your softwoods. So pines, spruces, firs, and evergreens. So leaf parts. And you can tell we're foresters, we're really excited about this stuff. So on the left there, that's a picture of a Florida maple or a red maple. And then you start getting into, so towards the end, that's the tip. Going down the center, that's the midrib. The margin, so that's the edge of the leaf. And those can be entire or smooth or toothed or double serrate, lobed, etc. Also, you got the vein. So that's going up into the, off the midrib. And then the lamina, that's the space in between the veins. And then the petiole back at the end. Sometimes that can be winged, etc. But that's where it attaches into the stem of the tree. All right, so first stop is going to be the Mesic Flatwoods. So here, I already talked about it. We have South Florida / pine. This is a pine tree that's native south of Orlando. And winged sumac, I'm really going to highlight a few here, and saw palmetto. So here's a picture of the trail walking out. That's actually during dry season right now. You'll see some pictures where it's a lot greener. And so again, South Florida / pine, that's on the left-hand side here. So the needles are generally about 6 to 10 inches long, and you'll find them in groups. If you pull them off, don't pull too many off of a tree, but if you have permission, you'll find them in groups of 2 and 3. They're bunched together. Versus longleaf pine, which grows north of the Caloosahatchee. And it's a really big conservation species they're trying to bring back because it was decimated with timber harvesting back 50, 100 years ago. That one only has groups of 2 needles. Then on the right-hand side, we've got a winged sumac, and that is again, it's got that fruiting body at the end. And if you look very carefully at the stem along here, if you can see my pointer, you got little winged structures there, very unique. And again, this one is actually opposite, but this is called a compound leaf. So there's lots of little leaflets that come off of this. Winged sumac and South Slash. All right, another big, very important plant we have out in pine flatwoods is saw palmetto. Scientific name is Sereno repens. This plant's actually very important for wildlife as a food. It's also commercially used to make a lot of different kind of native healing products. Saw palmetto berries get harvested pretty hard in the summer months, and so pretty interesting there. But these are very fire adapted. So if a fire came in through this picture on the left, about 6 months later, it'd look about like that. It just wouldn't have all the dead leaves that are in our center picture there. And so one of the very important fire dependent and kind of very important shrubs that are in our flatwoods. Other young pines, again, we already talked about longleaf pine, very important. The needles are about as long as our sow slash. And then on the right, up north, Florida, that's actually been planted in a plantation. That's regular slash pine. So it grows generally north of Orlando up into the Virginias, native pine up there. So cypress strand. So we are getting, so C is kind of hard to see on here. Goes through there. Cypress strand, we're starting to get a little bit wetter. So one thing to feature here is going to be the Dahoon holly. Again, one that you might see now. People a lot of times will call it Christmas berry, not to be confused with the Brazilian pepper. But again, this whitish bark on the right-hand side, very smooth. And again, this is going to be an alternate, so the leaves come off. And just that general nice appearance. This will get planted a lot of times under power lines as well, because it grows pretty slow. So the, again, kind of reiterating the, as far as the hydric flatwoods, getting wetter. And again, this is a picture off our hydric flatwoods. You know, the ground's pretty wet right now. Again, getting into cypress strand, you're really starting to see now a lot more water. So you can get up, 6 inches up to 2 feet of water for 4 to 6, 7 months out of the year, and it's still considered cypress. A lot less frequent occurrence of wildfires. So you can have pond cypress, red maple, cocoa plum, pond apple, Carolina willow. So an example of a pond cypress. So if you look at the leaves along here, they're almost like needle shaped, come off, and then you've got these big the cypress seed pods that'll produce about 10 to 12 seeds each, and then in the center here you've got the cypress palm itself, or the pond cypress palm. No such thing exists. And then on the right you actually have falling. We had a big wildfire here a couple years ago, and this was a red maple that was killed back. And again, you can see the edge of the red maple is a nice kind of toothed. You got the 3 lobes, almost like the flag of Canada, which actually is a sugar maple. But nice tree that'll grow in cypress areas. Again, another couple, cocoa plum. It's around a whole lot of areas, landscape areas, but then also the Carolina willow, very indicative plants in there. And then pond apple. If you boil that down long enough, settlers used to, they could make some jams and other things out of the fruit that comes off of pond apple. So now we're at the primitive campsite. So you can see this is where all the loops come together at stop D. And we've got the campsite there. Right now it's flooded. You wouldn't want to camp there. But otherwise, you contact us. Small groups camping. There are no bathroom facilities there. But is an opportunity. So now we're going to head up the hill. That's where I'm pointing to. That's where we're going to go to the mesic hammock. So mesic hammock, again, a couple trees to point out. We got live oak, and this is going to be alternate, and the leaves themselves are going to cup under a little bit. I like to use scales. This is actually a utility cover as far as a scale to show what the leaf size is. And then on your right, you have our native or your state tree, cabbage palm or stable palm. And how you tell that palm apart is the center part of the palm actually dips down versus the saw palmetto. If you hold out your hand, it just stays flat. As a palm. All right, not going to review too much, but if you wanted to in your class, as far as the petiole, leaf margin, etc. Just another example of, again, alternate opposite. So again, the leaf arrangement on that right-hand side or left, say left opposite, right-hand alternate. You get red maple. All right, so leaf collections. So once you're out there in the woods, if you talk to us, we'll usually give you permission to collect some leaves. You can actually put those down, do some tracings. Kids really like this. My son, who's 8, loves to do it. You can also do leaf origami, where you fold and make your own leaves. I'm not very good at that. And now we're going to return to the trailhead and discuss the experiences. So here's something about where else you can go with your tree walk. So there's county foresters across the entire state, or local ISA arborists, as International Society of Arboriculture. You can get with them resources, et cetera. Again, these are people who they love trees and they love to talk about trees, and they would, a lot of times be able to help you out as far as giving you pictures or helping you create your own tour. Your school site, unfortunately, some schools only have light poles that double as trees. So, this is where, reaching out to some folks, a nearby park, go there, idea a few trees, kind of build it small, and then you can build your tree tour larger and larger. And the other thing is students on their own time could go and visit these areas. So you can have them reach out that way. And other thing is, a lot of our forestry sites, even around the state, we usually have, 5-10 acres on there that we planted a whole bunch of trees, and that'd be an opportunity to come and be able to create a tour at as well. You can talk about forestless schools, so you only have light poles, nearby nature centers, or you could plant some trees at your school. The big key is watering, if you're doing that. So plant in the winter so it'll survive. Here's something did for my son at our house. He's actually named all these trails and identified a few trees. It's actually a cabbage palm, queen palm, and the Cuban laurel fig. It's the trees that he named. That's something I helped him do. This is with mapping. But you can also do this with Google Earth. You can have students draw with their pen and paper with a picture, or just draw some shapes. So a lot of different applicable things, and then also different sources of information. This will be available later on, but University of Florida, Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, really good, a lot of good fact sheets. There's also county extension agents, and there's actually city arborists sometimes. And then books, the first 2 you have to buy, the Forest Trees of Florida, that's actually available for free. You can download it. All right, any questions?